welcome everyone. Today is July 22nd, 2020, and we are celebrating the feast day of our beloved Mary Magdalene. And to begin today, what I really wanted to do was share something of a very personal nature with you. For me, prayer has become my life. And prayer is the single most powerful tool that any of us can use to ascend. It is what Yeshua would have taught. It is what Mary Magdalene would have practiced. And all of the women around Yeshua would have practiced very intensive hours a day spent in prayer, in praying. So I'm going to begin with a small prayer, and then I'm going to get into the different levels of prayer that take us to the point of liberation, of ascension. So welcome everyone. So happy to see everybody. Okay. Lady, enlighten what is dark in us. Strengthen what is weak in us. Mend what is broken in us. Bind what is broken in me. Bind what is bruised in me. Heal what is sick in me, and revive whatever love and peace has died in me. Amen. Okay, so in honor of Mary Magdalene, today we're going to discuss the 7 stages of intimate prayer. The light of prayer always exposes the darkness. The darkness cannot put out the light, but the light can put out the darkness. And this is the power of prayer. So there are 2 ways of praying. The first is known as ascetical prayer, and the other is known as mystical prayer. And the difference between them is that the first way relies entirely upon your daily committed praying, whereas the second way is initiated, inspired, and developed by the divine. It's mercy in action. Anyone who's using the power of prayer as an ascension tool should know that they should always be receptive whilst praying. This allows for prayer's profound influence to be received in the crucible of your conscious mind and heart. Now, these 2 immaculate ideals, of course, of ascetical prayer and mystical prayer, they meet. They meet in many places because there's many stages to praying. So the first stage would be to tame the body, the mind, and the senses. And Yeshua and Mary Magdalene practiced this, and they taught this in the desert. What they would do is they would take groups of people out into the desert, sometimes for a week, sometimes for 2 weeks, sometimes for a month. I don't think they did much longer than that. And they would fast, and they would pray intensively, and they would sing, they would drum, they would dance. They would cathartically release the shackles that have held the soul bound to suffering. So taming the body, the mind, and the senses, what is the purpose of it? The purpose of it is to accommodate an illuminative, purificatory process, a rite, a ritual. And this is the aim of mystical prayer. The Lord and Our Lady, they're eager to drench the seekers, the seeking heart, with healing powers. And they always provide us with a perfect climate for our ascension. They know better than us what is needed at every given moment, and they are always creating a climate to help us attain our goal of reuniting with them. So prayer should always be experiential, and it must be infused with love. Otherwise, it may not bridge the consciousness towards the intimate reunion that we're looking for. So prayer, the purpose of prayer, of course, is to bring us to the feet of the divine, to offer us a vision of the divine, to allow us entrance into the kingdom of God. So the bridge between illuminative prayer and purgation happens within the dark night of the soul. And within the dark night of the soul, we face and we purge and we purify our senses, our memory, our intellect. And we do this, we want to cleanse ourselves of all past associations with matter and with the pleasures of this world. And this is why fasting from this world was so powerful. This is why Yeshua and Mary Magdalene taught this to their followers in the desert. They would do this very intensively, often only drinking water for many days and nights. And of course, what happens when you fast is you start to freak out. The senses start to go crazy. The mind starts to go crazy. And this is because there is a sickness in us. It could be physical sickness or it can be spiritual sickness. And fasting from this world and fasting the senses from its interaction with this world is how we assess what is actually there inside of us in the most private, confidential places within ourselves. Now, prayer reaches into these private places where we are often distraught and lonely and suffering and struggling. We don't show that to people. We hide it behind our smiles, behind our titles, our awards, our successes, the way that we dress. Everything that we do, we try to hide what's really there inside of us. But prayer reaches in and cleanses us in these deepest, darkest places of the self. So prayer is extremely important and extremely powerful. How you pray is, of course, going to be individual to you according to your religion that you follow, your language that you follow. Some people pray using prayers that have been written in history by saints. Others may use mantra, holy name, repeating the holy name, speaking a rosary, chanting on a rosary. And we see this in all religions. We see this in the Buddhists, they chant on a rosary, the Muslims chant on rosary, the Hindus chant on rosary. So repetition of holy name is, for me, the most powerful and essential driving force of connecting us, of helping yoga to happen. And then within the crucible of the heart, transformation begins to happen because of the power of holy name, because of the purity of holy name, because the Lord's name is always holy. The Lord and Our Lady's name is always holy. So there are 7 aims and experiences that are available to the seeker within each level of prayer. Each stage takes time. And for some people, this could take many years, each stage. You could be in one stage even for an entire lifetime. Or you could pass through all 7 stages in one day, in one moment of sitting down and approaching prayer in a humble way. So even though every level of prayer is intimately connected according to your ability to devote your time, your effort, and energy into a daily practice, it is also relevant how much sukriti you have. Sukriti is a Sanskrit term, and it means it's a spiritual bank account that is accumulated over many lifetimes. And when this bank account becomes sufficiently filled because of your charitable works, because of your praying, because of your faithfulness, this sukriti starts to build in your spirit essence. And when it is sufficiently filled, you will be predisposed to realize every degree of prayer with great intensity and very quickly. Sometimes, like I said, it's possible to experience all 7 stages in one sadhana experience, beginning with the spoken prayer. First we have to speak the prayer, then we go through the purgation period where the cobwebs of our consciousness are cleared away. And only once we engage in this kind of prayer can meditation begin. And meditation, it allows for the soul to reach to a higher, more transformative type of prayer, and love and receptivity become the rewards of this kind of praying. So, even though a divine vision may be quite rare for most of us, it is actually perfectly achievable for anybody who petitions the divine in an unbreakable way. I say unbreakable because it's like pouring honey out of a jar into a container. When you pour honey, it's a steady stream, it doesn't break. It's a flow. And this is how prayer has to be if we want to attain a vision of, we want to see the Lord and Our Lady eye to eye, we want to meet them, we want to see their kingdom. This is the goal of praying. We should never, ever underestimate the power of prayer and holy name, because it has the ability to reveal the kingdom to us. And that is unsurpassed. There's nothing in this world that can reveal the kingdom to us as quickly as prayer. It's very intimate. So the 7 stages are, the first stage is spoken prayer, or the recitation or repetition of mantra, holy name. The second stage is purgation. Purgation means to cleanse away the unwanted things in the consciousness and in the heart. The third way is to engage the mind in meditation, so that whilst you're praying, your mind is fixed on the goal of life, on the saints, on the angels, on the kingdom, on the Lord, and on Our Lady. This leads us into the next stage, which is transformative prayer. And then prayer becomes infused with devotion, which is the next level. And after that, prayer becomes receptive. We start experiencing things, we start seeing things. And then in the final stage of praying, ecstasy is received within the crucible of the heart, and we are given a divine vision. A vision of God and Goddess, a vision of the kingdom, a vision of saints who are going to bless us and help us on our way. So I'm going to just break down these 7 stages for you to make it pretty easy, so that you yourself can engage in this type of prayer. This is the goal. This is the sole reason why Jesus and Mary Magdalene sacrificed as much as they did. In fact, it's the goal of all saints, of all religious paths, is to teach us how to pray. Why? Because they know that prayer is the vine that helps the consciousness to climb out from lower nature into the higher nature and beyond, to actually reach the kingdom and have a vision of it. So in stage 1, we realize that in order to facilitate and carry and contain the feelings associated with devotion, we have to vocalize our prayer. So speaking prayer with the mechanism of the voice, pleading to the divine for divine mercy. This is very potent, and it is recommended for any beginner. It is the first stage of praying. And to be embodied as a human being, we have to understand that the soul and the body, they're melding together to facilitate our transformation. Our bodies, including our voices, are best utilized in time spent praying. And it's the one thing that we don't do the most of. We spend all day long chit-chatting, talking, going on social media, yapping, everybody does it, and talking about all kinds of things all day long. But actually, how much time do people spend in prayer in a day? Very little. But within the practice of spoken prayer or recitation of holy name, there's 2 components that are needed in order to move to the next stage. One is to be aware of who you are addressing. Who are you talking to when you're praying? To focus your mind and to focus your voice on reaching, on intending to have an experience, an interaction with the divine, who you are, sorry, I forgot to unplug my phone. Who you are addressing. The second action that needs to happen in stage 1 is to be committed to your daily practice. Without fail, I will spend 5 minutes a day praying, or I will spend 1 hour a day praying. I will spend 2 hours a day praying. And that once you decide for yourself how much time you are willing to dedicate to this, to then be committed to that practice every day without fail. These are the 2 elements by which your climate of consciousness cannot rise to the next level without these 2 things.